Creation, destruction, knowledge, and choice. The 4 relics of Remnant. The MacGuffins created by the gods that are at the center of the RWBY story, with abilities in the realm of legend to the people of Remnant. But what exactly is it that each relic can do? We've only encountered 2 out of the 4 of them over the course of 9 volumes. And although we have seen what they are capable of on the surface, there are still a lot of things that we don't fully understand about the limitations of their abilities. Another of the relics, we have an idea of what it can do, thanks to one of the Fables of Remnant stories, and the last remaining relic we know almost nothing about, other than the shape it has taken and its presumed location. But I do think we can make an educated guess as to what its abilities are and the limitations it has based on what the other relics can do. First of all, the only consistent qualities that the relics seem to have between them is that when they're brought together, they will summon the gods of light and darkness to judge the people of Remnant. And on top of that, so far as the relics that we have seen within the RWBY series at least, each of them have sentient beings sealed within them, and when those beings are summoned, time stops around the user. Although it is likely that the prospect of spirits dwelling within the relics is consistent with the other 2 we haven't seen yet, we won't actually know for sure until we actually see the relics on screen. And lastly, there is one other similarity that might be consistent among all the relics, and if true, it will probably be the most important aspect of them, but I'll touch on that one a bit later, as for now it's just speculation. Beyond what I just listed, each of the relics operates with its own set of unique rules that place limitations on their abilities. Starting with the Lamp of Knowledge, we have Jinn, the Genie of the Lamp. Jinn will answer any 3 questions every 100 years with some restrictions. Those being that she can't answer questions pertaining to future events, in other words, things that have not happened yet, and although not explicitly stated within the series, much like the Genie of the Lamp, Jinn will only answer what you specifically ask. Pretty clear cut at first glance, but there are some things that we still don't know about the Relic of Knowledge. For example, when do these 3 questions refresh? We know that one of the current 3 questions had been used before the start of the RWBY series, and then the last 2 questions have been used within the scope of the show. One in Volume 6, when RWBY asked, "What is Ozpin hiding from us?" and another in Volume 8, when Cinder asked, "What is RWBY planning?" That first question, though, we don't know when it was asked, which is the important part. What the question was is largely irrelevant. It could be that the timing of the first question in a series of 3 actually determines the refresh time of the Relic of Knowledge. That those 3 questions refresh exactly 100 years from the time the first question was used. And given that the lamp has been sealed in the vault under Haven Academy, presumably since the Great War, then the first question was likely used only 80 years ago, give or take. Or it could be that the questions refresh every 100 years on a set date. Perhaps the anniversary of the relic's creation by the God of Light? When Jinn was first summoned by RWBY, she did say that she could answer 2 more questions this era. So the simple answer is that it's just the turn of the calendar to the next century, but we haven't exactly been given the current year in the RWBY series, so that makes it a bit difficult to determine when exactly the potential turnover of the relic could be. In any case, it may be possible that we actually see the Relic of Knowledge naturally become usable again within the scope of the RWBY series before the series comes to its conclusion, and before the gods are resummoned. Another thing to note, and this is probably the most important aspect of the relics, is that Jinn specifically seems to take a liking to RWBY and Ozpin, to the point that she is visibly upset when Cinder asks a question that directly opposes them. Now, it's unclear if Jinn's feelings towards an individual asking a question could influence the amount of information she provides. For example, RWBY's question about what is Ozpin hiding from us, if Jinn wanted to favor Ozpin in that interaction, she could show only the things that Ozpin specifically doesn't want all of them to know, which is exactly the question that RWBY asked, and was likely all that was answered within the show since Jinn was not acquainted with RWBY yet. Alternatively, though, had she favored RWBY, Jinn could show everything that Ozpin has not told them yet, that could be relevant to their current situation, that they might want to know, whether Ozpin intentionally hid it from them or not. Now, on its surface, those potential answers appear to be the same, but it probably would have been helpful, for example, to learn what the other relics could do at that time, and any other drawbacks that they might have, or dangers that they might possess. Even though Team RWBY saw Ozpin ask Jin, when he was in his previous incarnation, what powers do the relics hold, Team RWBY never heard that answer simply because it was not something that he was specifically hiding from them. It was just something that he hadn't told them. We know this as Ozpin had to explain to Team RWBY what the Relic of Creation was capable of in Volume 8. Now, that is also just a drawback of how RWBY worded the question in the first place, since she asked Jin, what is Ozpin hiding from us, which referred to everyone who was present, including Crow, who already knows much more than Team RWBY in regards to the relics and Salem, hence why the information revealed in the Lost Fable was only what Ozpin was specifically hiding from everyone. That being said, if Jin wanted to, she probably could have revealed more information. I'm sure many of us know the common tropes with the genies. If there is anything in your wish that is left up to interpretation, you likely won't get exactly what you are hoping for. So, it's almost certainly true with the information that you're provided by Jin if the question you ask her isn't worded properly. Hence why Ozpin's question of how do I destroy Salem only told Ozpin that he himself could not destroy her. But by that logic, someone else might be able to. Or there could be another way to stop Salem other than destroying her, etc. Hopefully, all of this makes sense in the way that I described it, and that particular detail of sharing extra information may not play a role in the RWBY series, at least for the Relic of Knowledge specifically, but it certainly does for the next relic that we see in the series, the Staff of Creation. On its surface, the ability of this relic is pretty simple, but can vary widely depending on the whims of its spirit, Ambrosius. Ultimately, the Relic of Creation can create any one thing or perform any one task that its wielder desires, with the restrictions that it cannot revive the dead, the request cannot directly destroy anything, and whatever was requested from the relic previously will cease to be. Now, it is worth mentioning that although the request itself cannot destroy, Ambrosius will create things that have the capability to destroy, such as the fire created by Cinder in Volume 8. Now again, it seems pretty straightforward, but Ambrosius specifically clarified that he will give the user exactly what they tell him, which means that even if he knows what it is that the user wants, he likely won't give it to them unless provided detailed instructions, such as schematics. But with that being said, he is also willing to bend his own rules if presented with a task that he finds genuinely creative. Hence why RWBY was able to ask Ambrosius to create a replica of Penny in such a way that it resulted in Penny gaining a human body that wouldn't disappear when Ambrosius created something else due to another request. This was confirmed to be the case by the writers in the Volume 8 commentary. So, the rules aren't set in stone. And due to that, it is a little unclear how much information Ambrosius will actually require for a specific task. When it comes to creating the portals from Atlas to Vacuo, Ambrosius did not actually require a detailed explanation of how the crossroads would work in regards to opening portals in space, as well as creating a pocket dimension. Instead, just using the vault as an example was enough. With Penny, however, RWBY needed to show Ambrosius her exact schematics, even though Penny was right in front of Ambrosius as an example. He even took a detailed look at her and was able to discern the exact problem that she was facing. Perhaps because of the initial request and the creativity that RWBY had showed in regards to Penny, maybe he just didn't need that detailed of an explanation to create the crossroads, as he already kind of favored RWBY and her creativity, or at least the group and their creativity, so he just didn't need the information there. Regardless, there's definitely some discrepancies between just the few instances we've seen the Relic of Creation use on screen. So, does this mean that Salem could just show Ambrosius a Grim, or the Grim Liquid, and have him create endless amounts of them based on a single sample? Even though Salem herself doesn't know how to create the Grim Liquid, since it was something that was left behind by the god of darkness. Who knows? Honestly, it might just depend on how inspired Ambrosius is by a given request. And this is the most important aspects of the relics introduced thus far. The spirits of the relics can heavily influence the result of whatever is requested from them, simply based on how they feel in a given moment. If that is true for Ambrosius, then it stands to reason that the same might be true for the amount of information that Jinn provides, and possibly for the other relics as well. The beings inside the relics are sentient, with their own thoughts and emotions. So, the lesson to be learned here is that the rules of the relics are not absolute. Whether it's inspiring Ambrosius with creativity, or impressing Jinn with a clever question, it's important to be nice to the relics, and they might just be nice to you in return. Another important bit of information that we don't have for the Relic of Creation is the limitations on what can be created in terms of size. The crossroads appeared to be much larger than the vault that they were based off of, and the entire city of Atlas was raised into the air as one of the requests made of Ambrosius. So, who's to say that he couldn't create a boulder over the city of Vacuo, or simply just lift a large section of Earth, perhaps maybe the size of Atlas, something that he's already done before, and simply drop it on the city of Vacuo. The series likely won't go that route, as it's not all that exciting, but it's certainly possible just based on what we've already seen from the Relic of Creation. Now, the last two relics haven't been shown in the series thus far, outside of their initial creation by the god of light. But when it comes to the Relic of Choice, we do actually have some idea how its abilities work, thanks to the Fables of Remnant story, The Indecisive King. Where the Relic of Knowledge dealt only with information from the past, the Crown of Choice deals exclusively with the future. The crown in that story showed the wearer a choice that they would face in the future. And, as far as we know, that is what it will do when the crown is finally revealed in the show. Beyond that, there wasn't anything really specified. There was no mention of a spirit of the relic, or if the wearer had any control over the choice that they were shown. It is important to note that the wearer was shown only the choice that they would face, not the decisions leading up to it, nor the result that would occur if the wearer decided one way or the other. And it's also unknown if the future choice that they face is guaranteed to come about. In many stories, the future is often unknown, and potential futures can be changed, but in RWBY, it's possible that the future might be a bit more firm and predetermined. Hence the question, do you believe in destiny? It is a common theme that was established early on in RWBY, but we'll just have to wait and see for the answer to that question as we move forward in the series. Now, it also has been stated by Ozpin that he hid this relic differently than the others, and that could imply that there are other unique circumstances surrounding how the Relic of Choice functions, or what abilities it possesses. Case in point, there does seem to be an implied connection with Glinda Goodwitch, given that her emblem is a crown. She was stationed at Beacon Academy where the crown was hidden, and, I have my own theories on that, linked above. But assuming that the Crown of Choice does have a spirit similar to the Relics of Knowledge and Creation, then it's certainly possible that the choice the wearer of the crown is shown could be influenced by the Spirit of Choice as well. If the spirit sees many interesting choices in a person's future, perhaps they would show more than one. Or maybe it depends on what the wearer is facing at that point in time. Given that the King of Vale wore the Crown of Choice during the Great War, which was a previous incarnation of Ozpin, perhaps the crown shows the choice that is most important to the wearer at a given moment. In war, that would be the next attack that could potentially take your life, or the life of your allies. But outside of those circumstances, what a person desires could change from day to day. Wondering about a potential love interest in the future, or maybe given financial opportunities that could have unforeseen consequences, etc. If this can be influenced by the wearer, and more importantly, the spirit of the relic itself, then this could be the relic that holds the most potential danger. This could also explain why Ozpin took extra precautions when hiding it. So, that would make sense. And lastly, there is the Relic of Destruction. Presently, all we know for sure is that it appears as a sword, and is sealed in the vault under Shade Academy in Vacuo, similar to how the Relics of Knowledge and Creation were sealed in Mistral and Atlas, respectively. Even though we don't know exactly what it's capable of, destruction does seem pretty self-explanatory. It also is the only relic that takes the form of an actual weapon, which is very telling in what its abilities might be capable of. Now, the Staff of Creation could be seen as a weapon, but it's a staff, specifically, not a spear, so it likely isn't meant to be viewed as such. The Sword of Destruction, however, was used by the King of Vale during the Great War to turn the tides of battle, so it is certainly more of an offensive relic than any of the others. Yeah, great. So the Relic of Destruction destroys. That's the obvious part. But it's going to have some pretty severe limitations placed upon it. The ability to destroy will not and should not come freely. But unlike the Relic of Creation, where every new creation undoes the previous one, I doubt that will be the same case for the Relic of Destruction. It wouldn't make much sense to destroy something only for it to then be brought back when choosing to destroy something else. Especially if that thing that you're choosing to destroy is another human being, then, that would kind of work in counter to the God of Light's entire philosophy that the cycle of life and death is absolute. There's no bringing back the dead. If you destroyed a person and then went to go destroy another person, that person being brought back, it just wouldn't really make sense. So, just as the Relic of Choice and Knowledge are two sides of the same coin, dealing with the future and the past, respectively, they both operated on very different rules. And so, I think the same will absolutely be true for creation and destruction. Ultimately, I think it's only fitting that this relic will be unique compared to all of the others, in that this one will demand a price from its wielder. For everything that they want to destroy, something of equal value must be lost. They must bear the weight of whatever it is that they want to destroy. And where would that weight be carried? Upon the user's very soul, shaving it away until they themselves are destroyed. In RWBY, this would also translate to permanently sacrificing part of a person's aura, or their aura entirely. So, those with more aura would in turn have a greater ability to destroy. I'm sure you can see what I might be implying with this, but I'll save that for another video. It is possible that there will be an additional limitation of understanding the makeup of the thing that is to be destroyed, similar to that one requirement to create something, but creating something is almost always more complex than destroying something, hence why I think there will be an additional cost associated with it to limit the amount of destruction that a single individual has caused. But, understanding the makeup of something to be able to destroy it effectively could play a factor in this. In any case, there does have to be something limiting the relic that prevents it from being able to destroy Salem. We know Ozpin's question in The Lost Fable, "How can I destroy Salem?" Even though the question is worded in a way that could imply there are other ways of dealing with Salem, Jin's answer of "you can't" is pretty clear that Salem couldn't be destroyed by Ozpin even if he was using the Sword of Destruction. Although, that could still fall into the trap of a genie not giving exactly what is wanted. If the Sword of Destruction has a sentient spirit within it, which it likely does, then Jin could see Ozpin and the Spirit of Destruction as two completely separate individuals, rather than the relic being an object that Ozpin could use to destroy. Which, in turn, would mean that even if Ozpin used the relic on Salem, it would be the relic that is doing the destroying, not Ozpin. And thus, it would mean that Ozpin's question was so poorly worded that it essentially just told him what he already knew, that he is unable to destroy Salem with his own innate power. If instead the question he asked, "How can Salem be destroyed?" then, well, we might have a completely different story to follow in the RWBY series. So honestly, who knows when it comes to that, but I'm gonna lean in the direction that I believe the writers intended with Ozpin's question, that the Relic of Destruction will not be able to destroy Salem, since I kind of equate the Relic of Destruction, or the relics in general, and Salem's immortality to be kind of equal power scale, if not Salem's immortality being on a higher level, since that was imbued upon her by the gods themselves. So we'll just have to wait and see how that unfolds. Now, if the extent of destruction that the relic can cause is in fact influenced by the spirit within the relic, then depending on the nature of the spirit within the sword, there could be some people who just really should not have this relic. Ambrosius is inspired to act in favor of someone if their request is creative. Jin takes a liking to RWBY because she has a clever use for the time-stopping ability of the relic in Volume 6, when she was fighting the Leviathan. Based on those two instances we've seen in the RWBY series, it stands to reason that the spirits of the last two relics might favor people who also play into their namesakes, choice and destruction, respectively. For example, the spirit of the Relic of Choice could appreciate someone who can confidently make their decisions without wavering on them, and thus the spirit might show them more than just one choice in their future, curious what decisions a person might make. Or, alternatively, it could just be that they'd favor someone or be interested in someone who's going to face a lot of dilemmas in their future. For the Relic of Destruction, however, that might mean that the spirit appreciates someone who has more destructive tendencies. If that's the case, though, then let's hope that Tyrion never gets his hand on it. Also, Salem, but that one's a given. And if the Relic of Destruction does demand a price to be paid, I'm curious if Salem's immortality would actually allow her to use the relic infinitely, or if using the relic would actually circumvent her immortality and lead to the destruction of her soul, possibly leaving her as just a shell, because I believe her body was made immortal. You know, there's still a lot of things that we just don't know, because that's also a scary thought. If we just, if Salem uses the Relic of Destruction thinking that she's immortal, but her soul ends up being destroyed, and then she's just left as a shell with still the grim capabilities and the magic that she has, though the magic is also tied to her soul, speculation at this point, but we'll see. Alternatively, though, the spirits of the relics do seem kind-hearted so far, at least in the case of Ambrosius and Jin, so the inverse could also be true, that the spirit of destruction may appreciate those who cherish life and the lives of others, wanting to destroy only as a last resort to protect what they care about. So that could run counter to what Salem wants. Either way, everything is pointing to the relics being released from their vaults at some point in the RWBY series. So we'll hopefully have some more concrete answers to the capabilities when RWBY eventually returns. In the meantime, though, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Was there anything that I missed when going over the known abilities of the Relics of Knowledge and Creation? What do you think the abilities of choice and destruction will be? Do you agree with my ideas and theories? And, most importantly, how do you think the personalities of the spirits within the relics will influence the way they are utilized in the future? Interesting things to think about. I look forward to hearing what you all think down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and join the Guild of the Eternal Flame. If you want to discuss RWBY, or anything else with me for that matter, feel free to join in on my Twitch streams. I stream every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, and I would love to see you all there. With that being said, though, I will see you guys in the next video.